You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts Jon Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Prosper in the Kingdom. I'm your host, Jon C, with the ever awesome Wendy Lee. How you doing today, Wendy?
Doing great. Good to be here. Happy Wednesday.
That's right. That's right. Awesome stuff. So today we're talking about how to prepare for life's curveballs. And I love this topic. We're going to dive right in because we've got a lot to cover today. And so, it's one of the things that, one of the most overlooked things about getting your financial house in order or financial planning is the emergency fund, right? And so today we're going to talk about building your emergency fund and how to stay ready when life happens, because it's not a matter if something's going to happen, it's when, right? And if you're not prepared, it's going to be, it's kind of a downward spiral, right? It goes, one thing leads to another, and next thing you know, you've got a bunch of debt. Nobody wants to do that, but things happen, right? Medical bills, car repairs. I think you just went out and bought a new battery this week for your car, right?
Yeah. Thank God that's all it was.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And so next thing you know, these little chips keep happening. It's like the death of 1,000 cuts, right? And your whole plan becomes off track. So again, today we're going to talk about that, that whole emergency fund, why it's so important. And I want to read Proverbs 21:20. We are a Christian-based organization here, so I want to share a little Bible words of wisdom. Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. Meaning you got to squirrel away a little bit for those rainy days, because they are going to happen, right? I don't know. At least they do to me. I don't know. Well, yeah, you just had the battery. We just talked about that. So
yeah, got in my car and hit the button, and it was like, and I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong? Thank God.
I know. And for those of you that are listening to this on the podcast, the sound was great, but you got to jump over to the video, because the face she just made with her car impersonation, #priceless. So let's jump in. So we're going to talk about why emergency funds matter. Again, like I said, emergencies are a part of life. It's not a matter of maybe it's going to happen or whatnot, but it's the difference between, peace of mind and panic. Something happens, like, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to your car, right? So if you didn't have an emergency fund, you didn't have credit, or maybe, things were tight right now, which they are for a lot of people, right? It creates that anxiety of, oh my gosh, how am I going to get this? Whereas you prepare for this stuff, it's water off a duck's back, right? It's no big deal. But, it protects your plan, on what you're saving every month and what you're investing and stuff like that. But it also protects your peace of mind. And to me, that is the bigger. I used to stress out about money so bad, when I was younger and before I really got into all this, and the financial planning aspect. But even that, when I was on my own personal financial journey, it was a lot. And without a savings, every bump literally turns into a crisis, or has the potential to, very easily, right? And I don't know about you, but I don't want that. So if you can't handle the storm, you weren't prepared for success. So remember that, folks. If you can't handle the storm, you weren't prepared for success. And I'm telling you, there will be storms in your life. There will be storms in your life. So let's jump into this. So, a lot of people, I think, Wendy, and I'm gonna tee it up for you to kind of jump in on the second segment. But looking at a lot of people, what do they typically do? Well, I don't have a savings or an emergency fund. I don't really need one. I've got assets and I've got credit cards, right? So I use my Capital One card that's in my wallet. Not endorsing Capital One, nor are we endorsed by Capital One. So I am open to that. I'll put that out there if they're interested. But talk about that, Wendy. What's the big domino effect?
Well, you say, oh, I've got room on my credit card, right? I can put emergencies on there. And which is what, honestly, most people do, is an emergency happens. Let's say a water heater goes out. You got to have a hot shower, okay, or a hot bath. You got to. So you got to replace the water heater. What are those? $600-700? You maybe $9.
Easily.
I don't know. put it on the credit card, and then, something comes up with kids or some unexpected expense that you have not saved for. And so a couple other things on the credit card. And then before you know it, and we talk to people all the time with 3, 4, 5, 10 grand on a credit card of things that they didn't expect. And what happens, your credit card has the interest, right? You keep piling up the expenses. Your minimum payment starts to eat into your budget. And now it's basically backwards, right? Instead of saving up for the emergency fund, we've now spent on credit, and now we have to pay it off. And that's going to eat our budget. Plus, you're paying more, right? Because you're of the interest that you have to pay. And so then you don't save because you're paying the credit card, and then eventually your credit cards are maxed out. It just becomes,
well, and that's what we were talking about earlier. Your whole savings strategy kind of falls apart because you pushed over that first domino, and then it just kind of clickety clack all the way down the row. Yep. And a lot of people follow under that. And again, that having that emergency fund really kind of gives you that peace of mind. And also, we've all heard that the borrower is servant to the lender, and it keeps you out of that, let's just call it what it is, debt slavery. Yeah. Right. And well, it's not slavery. Yeah, it is, because they're taking a portion of your money as you earn it without even doing anything, because you didn't have the emergency fund or whatever. Yep. And I get that people sometimes feel, hey, I can't do this, that, or the other. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to give you some action items where you can actually build an emergency fund. Fairly simple, but just keep in mind, every time you swipe that credit card for an emergency, or, and I hope you're not using it for just living expenses, but every time you swipe that card for an emergency, you're actually borrowing from your future, right? Exactly. Your future money, your future wealth, your future peace of mind. And you lose that margin, you lose that confidence, and ultimately you end up losing the flexibility. Because I've got to keep this job because of the fact that I got bills to pay and stuff like that. So again, that's why we call it the domino effect. But let's jump into kind of the emotional cost a little bit, as far as what do you mean by emotional cost?
Well, debt is like one of the number one stressors of people we talk to. Yep. Is the debt. Even our high income earner friends, it's the debt that stresses them.
It's usually
out.
High debt. Yeah,
it's usually high debt, right? Yeah. And so that affects your relationships. You guys, it can affect your health. Oh, yeah. And I'll tell you, this is from my own personal experience, it affects long-term vision, because you have to get in, I got to fix today. I got to make things happen now. I don't have the margin to be thinking long-term. I got, you know what I mean? Everything becomes urgent and focused and now. And studies show that financial stress ranks as one of the number one causes of tension in marriages and even divorce. And people without those reserves, it is a safety. We call it a safety net, right? It is a safety net in the bank. And it doesn't have to be a massive amount of money. And we'll talk about what that looks like. Some people go the extreme and they have too much in the bank sitting there just in case. But if I
can just interject, and I want to stress that there are people that do that. And I see that when we're doing, financial planning, and it's living in fear is what it is. Right. And you don't want to, fear, the acronym is false expectations appearing real. And there's a difference between planning for the eventual storms and living in fear. And, you don't want to live in a place of fear and scarcity mindset, but you do want to plan for the storms, because, like we said, they do happen. Yeah. And, looking at that, it's just, and again, I'm about to talk about that. Go ahead and wrap this piece up. Sorry.
Well, and then the last thing is the opportunity cost, right? When you're paying 20% interest on a card, that same money that you could have been earning growth with, you're instead losing with, essentially. Yeah. And you're paying interest instead of earning it. And now you're a slave to the lender, right? Yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I just want to clarify that definition in case people don't know what opportunity cost is. So opportunity cost is kind of like when you just laid out. It's a missed opportunity for financial gain because you're paying this extra money for interest, and you want to see what interest. Look at your mortgage payment. How much of your actual payment is going towards interest versus reducing the principal? But what happens, if you have, $50 going here, $100 going there, $200 going to this credit card, all of a sudden you may be spending four, five, six. I've seen $1,000+ going out in credit card bills, and that's money that you could have invested in your future, invested on your wealth journey and things like that. Because you have to spend it on credit cards, that's the opportunity cost, right? You missed an opportunity because you don't have that money anymore because you used it for XYZ or the emergency fund or whatever the case may be.
And I have to say, we don't have the same urgency to create income when we're depending on a credit card, right? Yeah. Like there's like, I don't have credit cards. Like I don't, I mean, one day maybe, but when I'm really responsible, but I don't have credit cards. Like putting something on credit is not an option for me. I'm not going to go out and get a credit card because I got into a mess before and I'm working my way out of it and I'm not getting back into it. And so I don't use credit cards, but because I don't use credit cards, when there are things that I have to come up with money for, it shifts my mindset. If and when I used to put things on credit card, it's like the emergency has been solved with the credit card, you think mentally, like your brain tells you that. Yeah. And then you're like, oh, I have this payment, but you don't have that same urgency to pay the credit card off that you did in the moment of the emergency to get the thing taken care of, if that makes sense.
No, it's perfect sense. And then jumping back to that domino effect we were talking about. So if you're in a debt snowball program or plan, that's part of the planning process we walk people through, and you're paying off the debt on the front end, and then you're coming in behind it and jamming more balance on the credit card. It's like a never ending cycle. Well, this doesn't work. It's like, no, you're not following the plan. And that's also, when we're going to talk about this in a minute, is why you go for a trifecta approach, not the traditional. I'm not going to name names, but there's gurus out there that say you got to do one thing completely before you go to the next thing and then the next thing. And, so this can create a huge opportunity cost for lost time, again, by approaching it that way. But you got to have the discipline in the back end. And you are doing the discipline by not getting credit cards, or not in what I coach on. And this is what I have. I have a personal credit card. I don't carry it. If I need something, I got to go get it out of the safe and then put it in my wallet. But I don't carry it around because it's too easy. Like you said, just swipe, right? I'll take care of it later. And because it's out of sight, out of mind, you don't have that sense of urgency. And then once a month you get a statement. It's like, whoa, all right, well, let me put an extra 50 on it. Okay. Yeah. You threw your pebble into the ocean.
So, John, how much do you really need for an emergency fund? What is appropriate?
$1 million. No. So I love that movie. So you look at how much you need, and this is one thing I agree with, the gurus that are out there. You start with $1,000, and that's going to cover, call it half the stuff that's going to come up. Like you talked about, the water heater breaks are out of my car. I need a new battery for my car because it won't start and I got to get to work. Right. Or there's a family emergency. I got to fly home to see my parents, and I don't want to rack up a big credit card bill or whatever for that. So I'm going to buy my plane tickets for $500. So that's going to cover a large portion of this stuff that most of us deal with, right? Not, oh my gosh, that flat screen I wanted is $100 off. No, you do not use your emergency fund for purchases like that. You use it for emergencies. But a lot of people I've found, that's where they stop. They think that's my emergency fund, so it's good. No, it's not. That's a milestone on your emergency fund journey. And I want to be crystal clear about that. So your first goal is to get to 1,000, right? And that's relatively easy to do. And we're going to talk about some ways you can get there. And Wendy's got a story that we're gonna talk to her a little bit about that she can share that can quickly get you there as well. But the second piece is you want to get to 3 months of your true expenses. Now, whenever you have a job loss or something like that, we're all spending money out there, the lattes or whatever the case may be. Well, if you lose a job, all of a sudden, you're going to not eat out as much. You're going to skip the Starbucks. You're going to do some things to tighten the belt, so to speak, right? Which is very appropriate, and that's what you should do. So when I say your true expenses, I'm talking your actual expenses, the credit card minimums, the car payment, right? The insurance stuff you have going on. things like that. You may cut your investments back or whatever the case, you're not putting in your 401k, things like that if you lose a job. But, those true expenses that you can't miss, or your credit's going to get trashed, or something's going to get taken away from your car repo, whatever the case may be, add those up, and you want to have 3 months of that covered. Okay. So start off with 1,000, then we work our way up to 3 months, and then we want to work our way up to 6 months. Okay. So 3 to 6 months is your kind of your green zone. Don't go above 6 months. Some people, like you were talking about, they I got to have it all in savings because, number one, I'm afraid to lose it. Number two, I just like to know it's accessible, right? Okay, that's where you're adding, again, more opportunity costs because you're getting a horrible rate of return. And so let's go find an investment for you or a strategy for you that's going to give you good returns. And maybe it's in protected asset classes where you get gains, no loss. So if you're curious about that, reach out to us. But, again, it's one of those things that start with $1,000, we get to 3 months, and then we get to 6 months. And this isn't something you're going to accomplish over a 6-month period, right? This may take you 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That's okay. Because again, once you get to that $1,000 and you get a month and then 2 months, all of a sudden you have breathing room. And so, hypothetically, you lose a job, you don't have to take the first thing that comes along. And you're not stressed out getting behind on your bills because you've got a little bit of breathing room. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, that's a game changer. That is a game changer mentally for you because you've got that breathing room and that peace of mind that, okay, I'm going to go out and find something. Obviously you're going to be diligent about trying to find a new job or whatever, but it happened to me 3 times. And the first time I didn't have a 401 or an emergency fund, right? I had $1,000 and that was it. I'm like, oh, well, this isn't going to work out very long. Now, fortunately, I got a severance and I kind of went into panic mode and rolled up the sleeves and found a new job quickly, but it could have been so much worse. And then as, I got older, I started learning about the things that Wendy and I talk about. And that's really where it's like, okay, I need to get serious about not only building wealth, not only staying out of debt, but I've also got to protect my family and my kingdom, my empire, if you will, that I'm building, right? So start off with 1,000, first milestone. Second milestone is 3 months of true expenses, and then 6 months of true expenses. But let's talk about some ways to build it. I mean, let's jump into that.
All right. So, one big thing, cut the unnecessary crap for a while, right? So the streaming, the takeout, we were talking about DoorDash the other day. Stop DoorDashing, okay? Stop.
How is DoorDash in business, guys? Come on, man. Get off the couch. It should be out of business. Yeah, if you guys, I get it on a rare occasion. We've got guests, or we've had a couple of cocktails and we need some more food. I get it. But come on, get off the couch. Go get your food.
Automate savings, right? Set it and forget it. You can do small amounts. They add up. Even you guys going and throwing the change, start using cash, throw the change in the change jar and go turn your change into some money at the end of the month. Sell unused stuff, right? Like I had some Lulu leggings that I never wore. I had, some other things in my house that I never use, and it sits here and it's worth some money. And guess what? Facebook Marketplace, that stuff gives me some,
those leggings, they fit great. I love them. Right? No, I'm just kidding. I didn't buy them, folks. I didn't buy
a pair of Lululemon leggings that I wore like one time and bought like 2 years ago for $75, y'all. $75. Just saying. Anyway, focus on progress, not perfection. But you can quickly through different, and we talk about different side incomes that you can do and affiliate programs and things like that. I found a fun new way to make
so let's jump into that. And it's again, this is a Christian program, so it's clean, ethical, and moral. So I just want to be crystal clear on that. But it's one of those things. We talk about side hustles a lot. I'm all about multiple streams of income, and if you're depending and trying to build wealth with one stream of income, you are asking for trouble. You've got all your eggs in that one basket, which I get. We talk about diversifying your portfolio all the time, diversifying your your investment strategy. You should do the same with your income strategies. But some of you may feel like, well, I don't really have time for a side business, or I really don't want to spend the time working on a side business, or I'm not good with people. Maybe you're an introvert or whatever the case may be. But I wanted to share something, and I talked to Winnie when she shared her story with me. I'm like, we got to do a video on this. And it just so happens we had slated doing the emergency fund, and man, what a perfect tie-in. So, talk about what you've been doing. And I know you've gone out a few times in doing this with your mother and just kind of out and about in general. And I know I've gone with you once or twice, this latest thing you just discovered, but, talk about that, what you do.
Yeah.
And kind of just as you go.
Yeah. So we like to thrift. John and I like to thrift. My mom and I like to thrift. My mom and dad are big thrifters. And John, I think you go thrifting more for like practical stuff that you want. My mom is the thrifter that she's like has an eye for what is worth stuff. And
I'm not that guy.
Yeah, it was a couple of months ago. My mom and I were thrifting. And for those that follow me on social media, a lot of people responded to this because we went to this one thrift store and we found so much stuff. And my mom started teaching me what to look for. She's like hand painted pottery, things that look, like authentic paintings. And anyway, anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole list, but she gave me this list of things to look for. And so as we went through this one Goodwill, she got like 6 things that were worth like money, like $40 to $80. One bird that I thought it like a kid made it. She's like, no, this is hand painted with pottery, blah, blah, blah. And sure enough,
by Italian artisans.
Yeah. Sure enough, we Google image search this thing, and this bird that looked like a kid painted it at like a pottery class, it was worth $125, and it was at Goodwill for $4.99. And so anyway, all that being
$499, $4.99. $4.99. Throwing that out there.
So all that being said, I'm starting to like really look at Goodwill differently. It's not like, hey, can I find Lululemon leggings? It's, can I find something worth money? Anyway, so I've started picking up some things. My mom's picking up some things, and we decided to start an Etsy shop and turn around and sell some of this stuff. And it's crazy because once you start looking for it, you start.
Well, share this last little thing, because I was kind of blown away by this, folks. And people, they'll get stuff. Parents pass away or whatever, so they got a bunch of stuff, so they just get rid of it, take it to Goodwill. And they don't actually go through it, and or maybe they do and they just don't care, whatever. But there's a lot of opportunity there, and again, that's one of the things that I've constantly stressed is there are so many ways to make money for you and your family in this country. You've just got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do a little work. That's it. Okay, not a lot of work, little work. So we were out on this last adventure, and I was walking the aisles, just kind of cruising around, again, looking for practical stuff, tools, stuff like that. And, I saw Wendy, and her eyes were like saucers, right? She's like looking at these stoneware dishes. And, I don't want to steal the story. So go ahead and finish. Well, but I want you to get specific on what you found, what you paid, and what it's worth.
Okay. So first aisle, I looked down and I saw this hand painted stoneware. I knew it was hand painted, like glaze. And I'm like, ooh. And then I bend down, it's on the bottom shelf. There is a whole set of dishware, stoneware. There's like plates, there's serving bowls, there's salt and pepper
butter
shakers.
Dish.
But I mean, all this stuff. And I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, I think this is worth some money. And I was like, Goodwill lately has been marking stuff a little bit ridiculously high, story for another day. And so I was like, oh, what's it cost, right? And I bend down and I see a stack of plates, $4.99, right? The salt and pepper shakers, $2.99. Another thing, a serving dish with a lid on it, $3.99. I'm like, okay, Google image. So that's what I do. Google image, and I see who made it. It's this certain artist out of North Carolina who had a ceramics company. And anyway, he has this whole, and I can see all the pricing online. So then I go to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, here's a picture of this stuff. Can you tell me more about this? Here's the artist. What is this worth? Anyway, long story short, I'm like, I'm getting this stuff. I'm going to resell it. It's really beautiful. It'd be great to keep too, but I'm like, it's more fun to sell. So, and I'm trying to build up savings and things like that. So anyway, I get home, wind up, I spent 76 total, but that included a hat for $6.99. So it was less than $70 that I spent on everything, 38 pieces. And according to all the research and everything, we're putting it all online. We should profit, I should profit around $800 to $900 just on that one little find.
No, you said we. So since I was there, do I get a commish or something like that? Because I picked the
So I
store.
was thinking because
No,
made
kidding,
the Etsy shop for me and my mom. So she got all excited. And she's like, I want to start selling my stuff. And she has all kinds of stuff that she looks it up and sees what it's worth, but she doesn't know the technical side. So I'm going to start putting her stuff on there. I'm taking a little cut, but
nice. So, okay. So you've got a net profit, let's call it $850, $860, something like that. And so we're talking about, get to that first $1,000. I'm not going to say that's going to happen to you, but one fell swoop, spend $76 and you walk away with $850 profit. That's almost and it took literally, and I was there, and it filled up probably half the shopping cart with dishes. That took all of 5 minutes. And so that's just one way. So I guess the point, and thank you so much for sharing that, Wendy, because I wanted to show people how simple it truly can, if you're willing to get a little creative. And, I don't know Etsy. I don't know what that stuff. So I saw it and I'm like, yeah, okay, it's cool looking. I like stoneware, but the design wasn't really my vibe, but that doesn't matter because it wasn't, she wasn't looking to buy it for herself. So she looked, boom, ChatGPT with her phone, the Google search with the imagery, and it popped up right there. And I see people doing that in thrift stores and stuff like that. Because I'll be honest, I do love to thrift. I'm not gonna be a closet thrifter. I do love to thrift, but I see people doing that all the time as a business. So that's something that you can do. And again, just, if you've got several stores in your area, make it a route, on a Saturday morning or something like that, just kind of pop in or whatever, or Friday evening. But, again, I just wanted her to share that story. Thanks again, Wendy. But it's not that hard if you're willing to put your mind to it, guys. So let's kind of wrap this up a little bit. So again, what you want to do for your emergency fund, right? It's not your savings account, but it's truly just your emergency fund. Open a separate account in your bank or your credit union for your emergency fund, right? You want to be able to access it online to be able to transfer, but you don't want to have don't get a debit card for it. Just simply put it there, set it and forget it. Do the auto pay. If you can put in even $10, $20, every paycheck in there, that's going to help. But let's get a game plan to try to get that thing, that first $1,000 knocked out within a few months. And then, really that's going to give you some breathing room. I'm telling you, that first $1,000 is the hardest, but it's also going to have the most impact. But remember, you're not done yet. You want to get to 3 to 6 months of expenses. But if you find that you need some help and say, hey, I'm ready to get serious about my financial journey, right? Reach out to us. Go to safemoneyroadmap.com. We'll put the link obviously in the header, but reach out and we'd love to help you. It's no obligation, no cost, just kind of get you on path. We hope you love what you see and you end up using us as your financial coaches, but get a plan and get it in place, guys. I mean, that's really the key. There's a lot going on economically, not only in the United States, but around the world. A lot of things happening right now. And you don't want to be that person, as things evolve, sitting there racked up to your eyeballs in debt, no emergency fund, and just kind of sitting there going, I hope everything stays the same and pretending that it will. But again, God doesn't bless chaos. He blesses stewardship. I don't know why I'm struggling with my wording today. But again, that's a long episode today, but I think it was well worth it. Wendy, thanks again for sharing your story. And guys, roll up the sleeves and let's get it done. Let's get ready for 2026 and make 2026 your banner year. And like I said, if you need help, reach out to us. Hope you got some love in this episode. And if you do, give us a little love back. Give us a 5-star review on the Apple or Spotify, and make sure you share. And if you're watching us on Facebook or something like that, give us that little thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel too. So everybody, make it a great day, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.